I'm Marty Stouffer. Of all mammals, none are less understood or less appreciated than bats. Perhaps the misconceptions are believed because we rarely come in contact with them. Contrary to popular opinion, bats are clean, gentle, and intelligent. Using echolocation to navigate, they consume as many as 500 insects per hour, including some bothersome mosquitoes and many crop pests. Not only are bats the most important controllers of night-flying insects, they also pollinate and disperse the seeds of valuable fruits, nuts, and spices. They've suffered long enough from a bad public image. It's time to shed some light on our beneficial bats.
Some of them over 800 air miles to reach this destination that we call Carlsbad Cavern.
The most famous and most photographed bats of North America are those which populate the Carlsbad Caverns of southeastern New Mexico.
Potentially 17,000 years.
Thousands of Mexican free-tailed bats emerge from the cave entrance in a dizzying display. As the light fades, they stream out over the countryside, our only mammals which truly fly.
How many of you went through the cave today?
Waves of them travel 75 miles or more to feed on night-flying insects, mostly moths. By late spring, the bats have arrived at Carlsbad, much to the delight of park visitors. They migrate 800 miles north to reach their summer home in these caves. Over 250 million years ago, an inland sea covered this area. Limestone reefs formed in the shallows near the shore. Eventually, the sea disappeared and the land was uplifted into mountains. Scientists estimate that about 60 million years ago, the cave building process began. Acidic water dissolved the limestone, hollowing out a complex network of caves, now protected within the boundaries of Carlsbad Caverns National Park. About 17,000 years ago, bats discovered these caves. A perfectly embalmed bat, encased in a stalagmite over 100 years ago, underscores the long relationship of bats and Carlsbad.
As they select this roost area,
Each evening from spring until fall, several 100,000 take flight, rising in columns, then evaporating into the twilight skies. When the Mexican freetails return at dawn, they may have eaten 100% of their body weight in insects. That's 500,000 pounds of bugs.
where from 200 to 300,000 individuals that typically return to this cave every spring.
The visual display is amazing, but imagine what it must have been like earlier in this century, when the Carlsbad colony numbered nearly 9 million. Today, the caverns shelter less than 1/2 million, largely due to human vandalism of roosting sites. Since ancient times, bats have been portrayed in a negative manner. Throughout the centuries, artists portrayed bats as satanic, supernatural creatures. In fact, Lucifer himself regularly appeared wearing bat wings. Medieval Christians often characterized early-day spiritualists as devil worshippers. And wouldn't you know, the little devils were decked out in their bat wings. Witches engaged the fearsome creatures in their mystical rituals. Remember the witches in Macbeth and their evil potion that contained wool of bat? But myths and magic aside, the bat is a gentle, intelligent creature. One of our largest bats is the plain-nosed hoary bat. Its heavy, dark fur is tipped with white, giving it a frosty or hoary appearance. The peculiar-looking western mastiff of the Southwest is the largest American bat. Its remarkable ears droop over its face. The smallest American bat is the pipistrelle. Tinier than a hummingbird, the pipistrelle weighs less than a nickel. All of the free-tailed bats have short ears which join over the nose, giving them a pugnacious expression. The California leafnose has elf-like oversized ears and a tiny triangular flap of skin that sticks up above the nostrils. The Yuma myotis is a plain-nosed bat usually found near water. Because no fossils have ever been found of anything other than a fully formed bat, we can't be sure of how they evolved. But we do know that 60 million years ago, bats were swooping in on their legendary wings. The bat wing is a thin, yet resilient membrane, which resembles a bird's wing in shape. But that's where the similarity ends. While a bird's hollow bones support delicate feathers, a bat's wing is made of a thin meshwork of muscle strips covered by skin. The bones that support the wing resemble a human hand. A long arm extends out from the body, complete with the wrist. From the wrist, finger bones fan out to form the hand. A bird's wing bones, by comparison, are much simpler in design. On the bat, a tiny clawed spur, or thumb, hooks out of the top of the wrist, allowing the bat to both crawl and cling. The finger bones support the wing, something like the struts on an airplane. Not all species of bats in North America fly into the night skies to seek out insect prey. Some have an entirely different mission. In our Southwest, the endangered lesser long-nosed bats are key pollinators of the most important plants of the desert. The future of an entire desert ecosystem may rest on these important night flyers, whose specially adapted long tongues and noses allow them to feed on night-flowering cacti and agave. On hushed wings, the bats come, hovering over the beautiful blossoms, plunging their long tongues into the flower and gathering its sweet nectar. Pollen sticks to their furry faces and bodies, and as they travel and feed, they cross-pollinate the plants. Although many birds and insects visit these plants in the daylight hours, the flowers are only reproductively receptive at night. And so the long-nosed bat is the only species which ensures the future of these giants of the desert. The bats visit the night-flowering cacti in groups, hunting out the blossoms of the saguaro and organ pipe, among others. But where long-nosed bats were once abundant, only a few thousand exist today, too few to successfully pollinate every plant. If this trend continues, the situation will have far-reaching implications. Some kinds of giant cacti could be lost to future generations. And if they die out, so will the many other species of plants and animals which depend on them for food and shelter. The potential demise, then, of the long-nosed bat takes on enormous importance. Only by protecting them can we ensure the future health of the desert ecosystem. And because they spend the winter in Mexican caves, we need to protect them south of the border as well. In many cases, the key to survival depends on preserving their roost sites from human disturbance and vandalism. Another species which shares the long-nosed bat's desert home is the pallid bat. It's a late-night hunter, which prefers to catch its prey on the ground. Everything from crickets and grasshoppers to lizards and scorpions may be on the pallid bat's nightly menu. But in the case of the tarantula, the bat gives this co-hunter of the night a wide berth. The pallid bat is a fairly agile walker. Its shorter, exceptionally strong wings help it to maneuver across the desert floor. Contrary to common belief, this bat, and at least some other bat species, have excellent eyesight, allowing them to discriminate patterns even in low light levels. Unlike most bats that need to swoop down and pick up airspeed in order to gain altitude, the pallid can vault into the air to seek a new hunting location, aided by a flight membrane that makes up 80% of its body's mass. Bats may spend over 3/4 of their lives asleep, slowing down their respiration and heart rate as they doze in a trance-like torpid state. For hanging upside down, they have a blood flow system that works in reverse to humans. And they have toes and knees which bend the opposite direction from ours. The pallid bat often roosts in rock crevices or old abandoned buildings. Some bats have even been reported roosting in a pair of boots left on a porch overnight. Suitable places to roost and rear their young are a particular problem for the Mexican free-tailed bats. Most rely on only a dozen caves in the United States, including Bracken Cave here in Texas. Over 20 million individual free-tailed bats live within the cool confines of Bracken, ranking it as the largest gathering place for mammals in the world. As many as 200 adults per square foot may crowd onto cave ceilings, mostly females, which raise their young here. After a gestation period of about 2.5 months, the pups are born. At birth, the pink pups are nearly 1/3 the weight of their mothers. Like a human female, the bat mother nurses her young at her breast. The pups are born hairless, sightless, and flightless, but not clawless. After a short time spent clinging under their mother's wings, they hang beside her in the roost. Each evening, the mother bats leave their babies to hunt. Upon returning in the morning, they not only find their pup from among the seemingly identical millions, but they remember the location of their baby to within a few inches. Both pup and mother recognize each other's voices, and the mother can confirm the identity of her offspring by scent. Less than 1/2 will survive to adulthood. Most that accidentally fall from the roost die. Accumulated bat droppings, or guano, as well as the bodies of bats, provide a rich food source for the teeming numbers of insects and other animals which live within the cave ecosystem. As the weeks pass, the young bats grow quickly, assisted only by their mothers. Now a grayish brown, the young are almost as large as their parents. A mother bat is intolerant of a strange baby and will allow only her offspring to nurse. Even before sunset, the adult free-tailed bats begin to fly into the darkening skies. This nightly odyssey will see them consume millions of pounds of insects. In seemingly chaotic fashion, millions flow out of the cave entrance, a flurry of long, narrow wings, dancing silhouettes, spiraling upward to a height of 10,000 feet. The sound of millions of bats leaving the cave, to us humans, is just a deafening roar. But to the bats, it's a symphony in ultrasonic sound. But predator can become prey. Frequently, other hunters like owls and hawks wait for the nightly bat emergence. The same echolocation that allows the bats to catch fast-flying insects on the darkest night doesn't always allow them to outmaneuver the powerful hawk. Enter the quick kestrel, smallest of our North American falcons. Broadsiding the bat, the smaller bird succeeds on its first try. While hungry bats continue to pour from the mouth of the cave, the kestrel makes its meal of the 1/2 ounce, mouse-sized bat. Once again, the redtail dives. And once again, it snares a bat. The sheer numbers of bats greatly increase any predator's chance of success. As the free-tailed bats spread out over the Texas countryside, the same full moon greets the California leaf-nosed bats as they begin their nightly hunt. Bats which hunt insects have the most highly developed sonar. They can truly see with sound, locating flying insects by sending out high-pitched ultrasonic pulses. The echoes that bounce back are instantly processed. Strong echoes equal large targets. Small echoes, small targets, like this moth. Once the bat has locked on, some species of moths have the ability to sense its signals, and they immediately drop from the air. Tiny differences in the echo indicate texture, shape, location, and direction of flight. A cruising bat emits about 10 per second, with up to 200 or more clicks per second when closing in on prey, at frequencies 10 times higher than our range of hearing. A cricket, on its own search for a meal, is shielded from the bat's probing echoes by the irregular shape of the cactus. When the cricket leaves its perch, the bat has no trouble deciphering its characteristics. The aerial chase only lasts a few seconds. Flying at speeds of 10 to 20 feet per second, the bat hones in on its target, scoops it up with a wingtip, and passes it into its mouth. Some bats catch up to 1,000 mosquito-sized insects an hour. Nearly half of all American bat species are endangered. An organization founded in the early 1980s called Bat Conservation International is trying to save our bats from extermination. Some species that have been evicted from their traditional roosts in caves, dead trees, and buildings can be lured to man-made substitutes. Simply constructed bat boxes with roosting compartments can shelter up to 100 individuals. If placed near a constant supply of water, we can increase our chances to attract these helpful hunters of the night. Despite what we now know about their importance to a balanced ecosystem, bats are still one of the most relentlessly persecuted animals on Earth. One way we can help ensure their survival is to erect bat boxes, like this one, in our yards and nature preserves. In return for a place to roost, bats will earn their keep by eating thousands of insects each night. You can obtain a ready-made box through several conservation organizations, or you can build one yourself. As you can see, all that's required is an open bottom and some snug compartments. By inviting them into your backyard, you'll discover the useful and fascinating habits of our beneficial bats. I'm Marty Stouffer. Until next time, enjoy our wild America. I'm Marty Stouffer. Because of its appearance, the little shrew is often thought of as a kind of mouse. In fact, it doesn't even belong to the rodent family. Tinier than any other American mammal, the smallest shrew weighs less than a dime. It can crawl through a beetle's burrow. Some are able to swim, even walk on water, but all have one thing in common: an almost insatiable appetite. This creature is a living relic. It's thought that it is closely related to the animal from which all mammals have descended. Let's explore the life of the incredible shrew. Of all mammals in America, the shrew is the most common and the most vicious. Wolves are less savage, bears less ferocious, lions less voracious, caribou less active. Through the ages, shrews have acquired a bad reputation. Called bloodthirsty gluttons, they devour their victims, bones and all, at an alarming rate. There's not much time to groom or rest before the shrew must eat again. Some shrews hunt underwater, some in termite-infested logs. All are constantly driven by the demands of a high metabolism. How could higher primates, like the gorilla or sifaka, be related to this Asiatic tree shrew? Scientists believe that 70 million years ago, these mammals all had a common ancestor, and this shrew was the evolutionary link between them. Shrews emit what appear to be squeals of joy as they kill. Such sounds have always stimulated human imagination, but never more than in the 1959 science fiction movie, The Killer Shrews.
Well, I'm a little old for that sort of thing, but what'd you have in mind?
Well, I'll tell you about one. A true fairy tale, and you're right in the middle of it.
Oh?
Have you ever heard of a shrew?
As in taming
No,
of
the animal. Bradford called them sore at Cerisity when you showed you one.
Oh, then shrew must be the common name for those cute little animals.
Cute. That's the last word you can use to describe those little monsters. They're the most horrible animals on the face of the earth.
The wildest and most vicious of all animals is the tiny shrew. He must eat his own body weight every few hours or starve. And the shrew devours everything. Bones, flesh, marrow, everything. In March, there were reports of a new species, giant killer shrew.
Of course, Hollywood shrews are the only ones suspected of dining on people. Most real shrews went underground long ago in search of insects and earthworms. Their high-pitched squeaks are not squeals of joy, but rather radar-like sounds that bounce in a pattern and indicate the presence of predator or prey. When two shrews come into conflict over food or territory, they battle. Such encounters may lead to death and cannibalism. This time, neither shrew is hurt. In less than a month, these babies will fend for themselves. Then, instinctively, they too will follow the same ritual to establish territorial imperatives. Fortunately for the water shrew, brook trout also enact a ritual fixed in their genetic memory. In midwinter, an abundance of eggs is laid and fertilized. The eggs gleam like a cache of rare pearls, while inside, cells divide and divide again. From the beginning of time, water has signaled a dependable source of food, where the hungry are certain to gather. No animal gets hungrier than the shrew. The water shrew has developed a remarkable capacity for searching out prey beneath the surface. Its rudder-like tail steers between rocks. Bristle-like hairs line the feet for a quick getaway. Down-like fur prevents water from touching its body. Were it not for this insulation, the water shrew would die of cold. No other mammal loses heat at a faster rate. Without capacity for storing fat, a shrew can go only a few hours without food before starving to death. Dive after dive, the shrew continues its search for young trout. If you had to eat as much as a shrew does to stay alive, you would consume 2 pigs, 30 chickens, 300 eggs, 50 pears, 3 pineapples, and 20 candy bars every day. It's survival, not greed, that dictates the lifestyle. The shrew is not the only animal aware of the young fish. A water ouzel shares both the shrew's taste for trout and also its hunting technique. Baby trout are a powerful lure for both shrew and ouzel. But a full-grown otter seems more inclined to want a full-grown dinner. And at the very top of the food chain, the largest carnivore in the world, the size of 150,000 shrews, needs the largest fish it can catch. For the short-tailed shrew of America's southeastern forests, survival means chemical warfare. Full-grown, this shrew weighs only 8 grams, a little more than a quarter. The courage to attack a deer mouse several times its size is bolstered by the shrew's poisonous bite. An unguarded moment, a quick nip on the tail, and the outcome is set. The short-tailed shrew's venom is similar to that of a cobra. It numbs the victim quickly to a dazed state, enabling the shrew to inflict a painless death. In life's endless cycle, one creature's exit is often little more than a cue for another's entrance. The shrew's exceptionally fast pulse and metabolic rate have long been known. My brother, Marty Stouffer, supervises an electrocardiogram which provides dramatic proof. Over 1,000 beats per minute, the shrew will burn out in less than a year. This is a human readout. This is the shrew's. Following the experiment, Mark releases the shrew back into its woodland home. It takes a lot to stoke the shrew's tiny furnace, and its favorite fuel is man's ancient enemy, the insect. A colony of destructive termites can turn our proudest buildings to sawdust. Living protozoa in the termite's digestive system break down otherwise indigestible wood cellules, turning them into food. The shrew reminds us that man has living allies equipped by nature to control insect hordes, perhaps more efficiently and safely than insecticides. Half a world away, in Africa, are some amazing relatives of America's shrews. The African hero shrew forages through rock slides for its insect supply, thanks to a back that can bear 160 pounds. The African elephant shrew is not a true shrew, though the facial resemblance is undeniable. Luckily for the sand cat stalking it, neither is it a true elephant. To the sand cat, the shrew's origin is far less interesting than its destination. Among the ranks of the world's greatest predator, there are those who openly declare that a hunter is no hunter at all without having bagged the animals known in Africa as the Big Five. In America, their targets include wolves, big cats, in fact, any animal large enough or dangerous enough to make humans imagine themselves heroes for hunting them. It is not surprising that among the most endangered species in the world are the 10 largest. In a world where giants are targets, it may be far better to be small and alive. So small that dandelions look like exotic trees, pine cones like scales on a dinosaur, fruits, leaves, and flowers, magnified botanical giants. And where a threatening badger seems as large as an elephant. A fugitive mouse blundering into the shrew's underground home does not find refuge, but a snapping ball of fur, driving it steadily back toward the serpent. No way of knowing that a quick retreat leads only to sudden death. While high above, another sharp-eyed observer waits for its chance at the nearly sightless shrew. The moon exerts its mysterious and eternal power over the vastness of our water. It controls the ebb and flow of tides. If we feel connected with these rolling depths, it's because the percentage of salt in our blood is exactly the same. No one felt the ebb and flow of the tide within more strongly than the poet Langdon Smith.
When you were a tadpole and I was a fish in the Paleozoic time, and side by side on the ebbing tide, we sprawled through the ooze and slime. The eons came and the eons fled, and the sleep that wrapped us fast was riven away in a newer day, and the night of death was past. Thus, life by life and love by love, we passed through the cycles strange, and breath by breath and death by death, we followed the chain of change.
In that chain of change, some mammals found the sea more hospitable than land. It's hard to imagine that the largest animal ever to live on Earth, the 150-ton blue whale, shares a common ancestor with the shrew. This present-day shrew most closely resembles that 200-million-year-old common ancestor, the first mammal. One must only glance at the mammalian family tree to see the rich variety of life the line has produced. Though differing greatly in appearance, all are air-breathing. Even ocean mammals, like whales and seals, have in common hair, live birth, and of course, mammary glands, from which the family takes its name. The mammals which fascinate us most are the primates. Man and non-human primates are closely related. Both share similarities of blood and cell structure. Both share tremendous brain growth and highly developed stereoscopic vision, and both have the ability to grasp with an opposing thumb. In its native African forest, the gorilla is one of 4 animals comprising the ape family. Others are the orangutan of Borneo, the gibbon of Asia, a supreme acrobat able to grasp with both hands and feet, and the African chimpanzee. Second to man, monkeys are the most successful of primates. Physically smaller than great apes, they represent an earlier, less specialized phase in the line. Successful tree living, coupled with remarkable adaptability to food sources, has led to an enormous variety of species. One needn't be a scientist to feel a thrill of recognition when seeing the miniature hands of a tarsier. These small creatures belong to the prosimians, the most primitive of all primates. Another nocturnal prosimian is the captivating bush baby of Central Africa. It shares with its larger relative, the greater galago, an ability to grasp and to perceive a 3-dimensional world. Off the coast of Mozambique lies the exotic island of Madagascar, home of the seldom seen sifaka. Madagascar is the last refuge for some of our rarest and most endangered primates, a group of prosimians found nowhere else on Earth. Named by natives for their unmistakable cry, the sifaka is only one member of a group known as lemurs. Lemurs come in a seemingly endless variety of color and size. The Latin word lemur means ghost, and considering the lemurs' dwindling numbers, ghosts they may soon become. For on the island of Madagascar, the product of over 50 million years of lemur evolution is being wiped out in but a millisecond of geologic time. Man-made fires to clear land for agriculture have destroyed most of the native forest. and over 90% of the lemur population. In the tropical forest of Southeast Asia, the Asiatic tree shrew is lured from the safety of branches to search for food on the ground. In an instant, the hunter becomes the hunted. The shrew's sudden death on the ground may explain why some primates stayed in trees. 200 million years ago, the Earth still trembled to the tread of the mighty dinosaur. But after a 100 million year reign, the age of the giants was finally coming to an end. 70 million years ago, vast climatic changes brought the tropical rainforest of Earth to full flower. The climate changed, but the dinosaurs did not, and the mighty giants came to extinction. As they left, one small shrew-like creature entered upon the scene, destined to evolve into the first primate. It's a long way through the ages, and the chain of change is felt throughout. Thumbs appeared, bones changed, brains became larger, vision improved. Finally, a creature that walked upright on two legs. Did man also evolve this way, as most scientists believe? Or did we emerge from underground, or fall from the sky, according to Native American legend? Were we created exactly as we are in the Garden of Eden? Or did we arrive fully human from elsewhere in the universe? Regardless of how we came to be here, our varied understandings only point beyond our limited knowledge toward a far greater universal power of which all things are a part. From the tiniest of all mammals, the shrew, up through the chain to the most advanced primate, the touch of this Creator is clearly upon all creation. Every living species is the product of millions of years of evolutionary change. To remove a single living form from the chain brings an end to untold future generations. Did we humans have shrew-like ancestors 70 million years ago? Well, no one knows. But we do know that because this tiny mammal has endured, we are at least given a hint of where we may have come from and where we may be going. All thanks to the incredible shrew. I'm Marty Stouffer. Until next time, enjoy our wild America. I'm Marty Stouffer. If you were asked, what's your favorite animal? Would your choice be snakes? Probably not. Unlike mammals with their soulful eyes or birds with their enchanting songs, snakes rarely capture a place in our hearts. But they can capture our fascination. Take the king snake family, for instance. Its members are some of the most brightly colored snakes in North America. And they have also evolved a myriad of patterns. Spots, stripes, and bands. Their different markings reflect the diversity of the ecosystems they inhabit. And their behavior is as remarkable as their coloration. Aggressive enough to attack and swallow a rattlesnake, yet docile enough to be easily tamed for a pet. I think you'll agree that they are the king of snakes. The concept of survival of the fittest takes on new meaning as more and more animals are faced with the onslaught of civilization. Fortunately, king snakes still find plenty of food, space, and shelter in our man-made world. They range from the temperate zone of North America to the tropics of Central America. Here, an Arizona mountain king snake warms itself on the sun-baked rocks of the Chiricahua Mountains. Unlike its Arizona cousin, which has a white snout, the California mountain king snake has a black snout. It lives among the canyons and mountains from California to southern Washington. In addition to enhancing its beauty, the brightly colored bands also serve a purpose. When moving at top speed, the bands cause the optical illusion of an after image. This makes the snake appear longer than it really is, and a pursuing predator is fooled into striking an instant too late. If you've ever tried to grab a moving snake, you probably know that this effect works on humans as well. It explains why this California banded king snake relies on markings that contrast with its surroundings rather than blend in. This afterimage is also produced by the striped pattern of this California striped king snake. Adding to the medley of colors is the Sonoran black king snake. One of my favorites is the gray banded. This king snake is found in the mountains of Texas and Mexico. Although more accustomed to dry land, king snakes are good swimmers and often feed on fish, in addition to frogs, lizards, and other snakes. Between the arid canyon rims and desert floor of West Texas, pools of spring water provide thirst-quenching relief for wildlife. The gray-banded king snake adds a splash of color to the barren beauty of this landscape. It's springtime, and the urge to mate is at its peak. These two males have crossed paths while following a trail of musk laid down by an ovulating female. They size each other up with flicking tongues, using senses that are quite different from those of mammals. They don't see color, and their hearing is limited to low-frequency vibrations of the ground. Their primary sensor, located in the roof of their mouth, is called the Jacobson's organ. Using their tongues to carry chemical signals from the environment to this organ, they can detect food, danger, or a prospective mate. The two tips of their forked tongues fit neatly into the two ducts of the Jacobson's organ. The belief that their flicking tongues sense vibrations is just one of the many myths surrounding these misunderstood creatures. Body language is a powerful means of communication between snakes. Although it looks more like a dance, this combat ritual is actually a test of strength and superiority. The scuffle catches the attention of the female nearby. Yet she's indifferent to which one will be her mate, for theirs is a world completely untouched by social bonds. As with most battles in nature, this struggle is more ritualized than real. The lighter-colored male slithers over his rival in what appears to be a dominance display. To me, one of the most interesting things about snakes is how the absence of limbs allows them to move with such fluid grace. Most herpetologists agree that these legless reptiles share a common ancestor with lizards, and that they lost their limbs, eyesight, hearing, and the ability to change coloration when their ancestral form became a subterranean burrower. Later, when snakes readapted to the surface, they never regained many of their lizard-like characteristics. The evolution of most snakes coincided with that of rodents and birds, their major sources of prey. King snakes arrived on the scene much later and found a plentiful food source in the form of their reptilian cousins. This recent evolution may explain how two members of the same species, like these gray-banded king snakes, can have such different markings. King snakes arose only 30 million years ago. Yet it takes about 50 million years of natural selection to determine exactly which color pattern best enhances a snake's survival in a particular area. So king snakes still carry, within their genes, a multitude of color pattern possibilities. Battle-weary and driven by age-old instinct, the males turn their energies toward tracking down a mate. The damp leaf litter beneath a eucalyptus forest in California is the scene for the mating ritual of a pair of California king snakes. Although the albino male lacks normal skin pigment, he can still reproduce. That is, if he manages to survive in the wild without his protective coloration. This odd couple begins courtship by stroking each other with the undulating curves of their bodies. The suitor crawls along the female's back, sometimes biting her, in an attempt to get his tail under hers. With the exception of albinism, there's very little difference between the sexes. Mainly, the female's body is longer than the male's in relation to their tail length. This is true of many reptiles, since the female carries the eggs. Also, male snakes and lizards have a swollen section at the base of their tail produced by two organs called hemipenes. During copulation, the male introduces one of them into the female's cloaca. She signals her readiness to receive him by raising her tail. His hemipenes have spines that actually lodge into the walls of her cloaca. The arrangement of these spines, called ornaments by herpetologists, are so unique that they can be used to distinguish one species from another. For several hours, the pair will be locked together to ensure fertilization. The female often loses interest before the male, resulting in the unlucky animal being dragged along while still attached. After mating, 4 to 8 eggs will be deposited in moist, warm soil, usually under rotting logs or in decaying leaf matter. The soft-shelled eggs of snakes and lizards take in water from the soil and would quickly dehydrate without this moisture. Within 24 hours, all the young snakes in a nest will hatch. This synchronous hatching occurs with many other reptiles and is obviously a survival tactic. Apparently, predators can pick up scent from a live snake, but not from the eggs. Experiments show that nest predation is highest soon after the female lays the eggs and tapers off as her scent slowly disappears from the nest site. But once the first hatchling leaves the nest, the others must follow quickly before a hungry raccoon, skunk, or other predator is attracted by the scent. The young are miniature editions of their parents and are fully equipped to fend for themselves. Hatchlings that manage to escape their many predators must catch at least one meal before they find a den and hibernate for the winter. Among the rocks and scrub of California lives the venomous Pacific rattlesnake. The sound of its threatening rattle instills fear in most other animals, but it doesn't frighten its archenemy, the California banded king snake. The predatory king snake seizes the rattler and begins constriction. The tenacious rattlesnake does not give up its life easily. Even after death, its reflexes can still be quite active. In fact, humans have been bitten hours after they thought they had killed a rattlesnake. All snakes are carnivorous, but few species have the skill or necessary antitoxin in their blood to attack and devour a rattlesnake. It's no wonder they were given the name king snake, although coach whips also dine on their poisonous kin. Unlike the ribs of mammals, which are fixed to the skeletal system in both back and front, a snake has an expandable rib cage connected only to the spinal column. This allows the snake to swallow a meal much bigger around than itself. Also, both jaws move independently, and the surrounding skin is able to stretch to accommodate its victim. The king snake tugs and pulls at the lifeless coils, straightening the carcass for easier swallowing. A king snake has the unique ability to devour another snake much longer than itself. It does this by literally folding the prey in half within its stomach cavity. The bones, scales, and even rattle are completely digested. Weighed down by the heavy meal, the king snake searches for safety in a den or hole until it's ready to feed again. In the cool, dark understory of a pine woodland, a Florida king snake has frosted eyes, signifying the first stage of its skin shedding process. After the skin separates from the eyes, it begins to peel away at the head. The snake tries to snag the loose ends on rocks or bark so it can wiggle out of its old skin in the same manner we roll off a sock. King snakes molt about 3 to 4 times each year. Just like humans, their skin is made up of 2 layers, the dermis and epidermis. The old layer of skin begins to peel only after the new epidermal layer is fully formed underneath. The benefit of shedding is simply to renew the skin cells as they become old and worn with age. But it must also aid the healing process, since an injured snake sheds much more frequently. This habit enhanced the supernatural reputation of the snake. It was interpreted as proof of the snake's immortality. The skin is dead, but the snake lives on. Our fear of snakes, known as ophidiophobia, probably stems from our fear of the unknown. But the gentle king snake gives us little cause for concern. While the facts may never overcome childhood fears, they may help to present the snake for what it is, one of the most remarkably adapted creatures on Earth. The closest most of us come to meeting one is finding its ghostly silhouette left behind on the forest floor. Let it always be a reminder of how lucky we are to share our world with the beautiful and intriguing king snakes. We humans often look at plants and animals and only recognize the image that benefits us, like looking at a tree and seeing only firewood. Or sometimes we transform living things into images that frighten us, like visualizing a snake in the form of a devil. In our attempt to categorize organisms into good and bad, snakes have suffered the worst reputation of all. Surprisingly, they can be useful to us. The king snake serves mankind by controlling rodent and rattlesnake populations. The very presence of this voracious snake eater in your backyard will effectively scare off its venomous cousins. Learn to identify the king snakes in your area so you can help protect them, and ensure there's always a place in nature, if not in our hearts, for the king of snakes. I'm Marty Stouffer. Until next time, enjoy our wild America. I'm Marty Stouffer. These are fossilized ammonites. They lived nearly 70 million years ago, long before man arrived. Even then, this animal was fully developed, beautiful in its symmetry, and it looked much like many of today's mollusks. Molluscans include not only the common snail, but also the more unusual squid. The incredible thing is the enormous variety of forms that derive from one basic structure. Entering their realm will take us to the fascinating world of seashells, and we'll meet some unique animals which survive only by eating mollusks. These well-designed invertebrates are the second most numerous animal group. Let's explore a multitude of mollusks. To many of us, the most interesting and familiar mollusks are the sea snails. Actually, it's not the animals we're familiar with, so much as their beautiful hollow shells. We collect seashells along the beach and marvel at their colors and designs. Yet most of us know very little about the animals that once inhabited them. A close-up look into the world of mollusks reveals creatures so strange and unusual, they seem to be more a product of science fiction than of evolution. Even a common pond snail takes on an alien appearance when viewed from below. While most mollusks have shells, not all animals with shells are mollusks. Crabs and their relatives, lobsters and barnacles, are crustaceans. Unlike mollusks, crustaceans have segmented bodies with jointed legs. The 5 classes of mollusks in North America are each distinguished by a certain combination of molluscan features. The word mollusk means soft-bodied, a characteristic they all share. A fleshy tissue, or mantle, surrounds their boneless bodies. In most species, such as these primitive-looking chitons, the mantle secretes a protective shell. Mussels, clams, oysters, and scallops are called bivalves because of their two-piece hinged shells. These appetizing creatures are by far the most valuable to man. The less common tusk shells, so named because of their shape, live buried in the ocean floor. Their shells were used by Indians for jewelry and for wampum, a form of currency. The largest and most colorful class of mollusks are the snails and slugs. These adaptable animals live in both salt and fresh water, and on land. Many mollusks are slow-moving, but some are jet-propelled, like the squid, cuttlefish, nautilus, and octopus. Their most prominent feature is their tentacles, which in most cases are used for capturing prey. It's no wonder most mollusks evolved a hard protective shell, since so many creatures find them so tasty. But for every defensive strategy in nature, there's a counter-strategy. To dislodge an abalone, the clever sea otter pounds it with a rock. This tool-using ability is relatively rare in the animal kingdom. Curious seals watch from above, as if interested in learning the otter's tricks. Studies show that mollusk shell is remarkably durable, as stiff as aluminum and as strong as fiberglass. Researchers are working to duplicate the molecular structure of abalone shell to create a concrete that can withstand 1,000 times the impact of ordinary concrete. Mollusks are important items in the diets of many mammals, birds, herptiles, and fish. They're also eaten by other mollusks. This predatory land snail feeds on slugs and worms, which it stalks with the voracity of a true predator. Caught in the deadly grip of the snail's radula, the slug is quickly devoured. Despite their lack of shell, slugs are not without their defenses. The bright yellow color of this banana slug is most likely a form of protective coloration. The banana slug is approximately the same shape and color as the decaying yellow leaves which litter the forest floor. So one explanation is that, by resembling a fallen leaf, the slug is overlooked by predators. This western garter snake is not so easily fooled. The defense strategies of molluscans are as extraordinary as the animals themselves. Banana slugs can grow up to 6 inches long. While their color gives them an edge against predators, their size is an even greater advantage. And the bigger the slug, the more mucus it can produce. A garter snake would have no trouble swallowing a smaller slug, but one this size is more than a mouthful. Without shells, slugs are vulnerable to predation, but their worst danger is dehydration, a problem they solve by crawling out from under rocks and logs, mainly at night or after a rain. Scallops have a means of escape that is unique among the bivalves. They move about by clapping their shells together, castanet style. Their tiny blue eyes are sensitive to changes in light intensity in order to detect the approach of predators. Starfish are the scallop's biggest threat. Cockle shells have evolved yet another peculiar way to escape predators. Their long muscular foot evolved primarily as a means of burrowing into the sand, but it works equally well for fending off starfish. Humans are another major predator of mollusks. Oysters especially have been a prized food since man first made his living from the sea. Today, thousands of tons of oysters are consumed annually. Because of the huge demand, dredging equipment is used to scrape the oysters from their ocean beds. These were actually planted 5 years ago. Oysters are now farmed in much the same way as other crops. To supply the growing demand for these bivalves, seed oysters are sown in cultivated beds for future harvest. While oysters and other shellfish are merely a delicacy in human diets, there's one mollusk that's essential to the very survival of two rare birds. The freshwater swamps and marshes of Florida are home to the apple snail. It's the main food source of the limpkin, an odd-looking bird that's the sole member of a family believed to be a link between the rails and cranes. Limpkins find apple snails by probing in the mud with their long bills. Even though limpkins often supplement their diet with mussels, worms, and crayfish, their population has declined, along with that of the apple snails. These aquatic mollusks have lost much of their habitat to the draining and development of Florida wetlands. A cluster of delicate pink apple snail eggs holds the promise for the future of another bird, the Everglades kite, also called the snail kite. Its talons and sickle-shaped bill have evolved specifically for picking up snails and extracting them from their shells. Because of its total dependency on the apple snail, the Everglades kite lives a precarious existence. Only 300 to 500 of these birds remain in the vanishing wetlands of Central and South Florida. The Everglades is home to yet another distinguished mollusk, the Florida tree snail. The patterns of their shells mark them as one of the most beautiful land snails in the world. Each of these color types evolved on a particular tree island, isolated from the others by a sea of grass. To observe the more unusual activities of mollusks, it's not necessary to travel to the Everglades or to the seashore. Some of their most fascinating behavior occurs right in our own backyards. Here, a pair of common land snails unite to perform one of the strangest courtship rituals in the animal kingdom. Snail courtship consists of mutual touching and caressing. Once in a while, at the height of their sexual arousal, something truly bizarre happens. One snail stabs the other with a pointed blade called a love dart. The exact reason for this behavior is not known. Undoubtedly, it plays a part in the exchange of stimuli necessary for breeding success. Undaunted by the love dart, the snail revives, and the courting continues. Snails are hermaphrodites, meaning they each have both male and female organs. With some snails, an individual can fertilize itself. With others, like this species, it takes two to tango. During copulation, each transfers a packet of sperm to the other. The actual fertilization and laying of the eggs is delayed as long as necessary until the moisture in the soil and the air temperature are ideal. After mating, there's always the chance that one of the snails will crawl away with the other's love dart sticking through its body. Several weeks later, 10 to 50 eggs are laid in a shallow hole in loose, moist dirt. Since the hind part of the snail's body is coiled inside the shell, the eggs are released from an opening on the side of its head. The mass of white eggs will be covered with dirt and will take 2 to 4 weeks to develop. The young emerge with a semi-transparent shell. They are fully equipped for life above ground. That is, if they can manage to crawl up to the surface. This one takes the easy way out by hitching a ride. A snail moves by sending waves of muscular contractions sweeping along the sole of its foot. To aid in locomotion, glands at the front of the foot secrete a trail of mucus over which the snail glides. The hatchlings will reach adult size in 1 to 3 years. Since this species is vegetarian, the young snail is in no danger of being eaten by its parent. Apparently, riding on the backs of other snails is a habit learned early in life. Because of their shells, we know more about mollusks than most other groups of invertebrates. The centuries-old popularity of shell collecting has provided us with valuable information about their worldwide distribution. But more importantly, the evolution of their hard mineral shells has resulted in a rich fossil record of some 35,000 species. What we know about mollusks makes us appreciate nature's endless solutions to the problems of survival. What we have yet to learn about them makes us wonder if someday their solutions may benefit our own survival. When I stroll a beach full of seashells, I'm amazed at what infinite beauty and variety the world contains. Mollusks have been successful over hundreds of millions of years by virtue of their ability to adapt one basic design to so many needs. These lowly invertebrates can teach us to appreciate our own ability to adapt to new situations, a quality well exhibited by a multitude of mollusks. I'm Marty Stouffer. Until next time, enjoy our wild America.